All right, looks like we're live.
Okay. According to my clock, it's 6 o'clock. So I will call to order the regular board meeting of the Park District of Highland Park on Tuesday, March 30, 2021 at 6 o'clock p.m. Roxanne, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Bernstein, Commissioner Grossberg,
Here.
Commissioner Flores-Weiskopf,
Lori, sorry we didn't hear.
Oh, here.
Oh, thank you.
Vice President Kaplan, and then President Ruttenberg.
I am here. We have a quorum. I know that Commissioner Bernstein may be late and that Commissioner Kaplan also may be late, but as we have a quorum, we will proceed. Brian Romes and Lori or Terry, are there any additions to the agenda?
No.
All right, hearing none. Public comment. Anyone wishing to speak will need to use the raise hand function in Zoom to indicate they would like to speak. The board president or the board secretary will call on registrants who have activated the raise hand feature in alphabetical order. Well, that's going to be difficult. Executive Director Romes, is there anyone from the public attending this meeting who wishes to speak and provide public comment?
At the current time, it appears we have one attendee. I don't see a hand raised. So it appears that there is no public comment.
Okay, thank you. The consent
I'm
agenda.
sorry, I'm late.
Oh. Let the record show Brian Kaplan is here.
Good. So we'll move to the.
I apologize for being late, guys.
We made the apology for you on your behalf in absentia. So
Okay, thank you.
the consent agenda. We have items A through I. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roxanne, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Grossberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Flores-Weiskopf,
Aye.
Vice President Kaplan,
Yes.
President Ruttenberg.
I vote yes, the motion is carried. We move now to the financial forecast. Director Peters to present.
Okay, good evening. Let's see. Can you see the financial forecast and treasurer's report screen?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. All right. So let's keep going here, and it should be in. Yes, I think we're in the right mode too. Okay. Okay. So what we have done this month for February, which is a little different than what we normally do. We usually don't make any changes to our financial forecast and treasurer's report between the finance committee and the board meeting. However, this month we did because we had a material change to our cash flows, and so we wanted to get that incorporated. What you saw in the board memo on Friday was that our property tax extension came in. It came in roughly $76,000 higher than what we had budgeted for. And so we inserted additional cash flow in July for $39,000 and additional cash flow in November for $37,000 to the positive. So that's going to get us to a month-end projected cash on hand of about $12.6 million. And that would be compared to what we had originally budgeted to have cash on hand of about $12.2 million. So that is definitely favorable. And actually later on in the presentation, we're going to talk about a couple of other positive changes we've made to the cash flows that have changed our projected cash on hand at year end to the better. And then finally, keep in mind that we have a board policy that says we are to keep 25% of our fund balance in reserve, which is this $4.1 million. So both our budgeted and projected cash on hand balances look really good as of February 28th. Next, we're going to look at our operations as of February 28th, and we can see that our actual to budget revenue is pretty much in line with each other, but we do see a significant reduction in expenses, our actual expenses versus what we had budgeted for. And so what that does for us at February 28th is it gives us a surplus of about $322,000 when we compare where we are actually at month end versus where we had budgeted ourselves to be. Additionally, we had a request to drop in what our actual revenues were for the 3-year period 2017 through 2019. And then we also put in what our actual expenses were for 2017 through 2019. We took an average of those 3 years, and you can see those numbers here, what they end up being. But to just look at it larger picture, what we did is we looked at our actual surplus as of February 28th for a phase 4 year. And then we compared it to the 3-year average. And those 3 years, of course, would be pre-COVID years, or what ultimately will probably be what we would call phase 5 years. And so when we compare our actual at February 28th versus a phase 5 3-year average, we are to the negative of about $550,000. And so that's all we really wanted to share on this chart, except for one of the major reasons for this decline in expenses. Actually, there's two. One is payroll, which you'll see in a few minutes when we look at the payroll slide. And then, of course, we want to keep in mind that back in January, we were in tiered mitigation for phase 4. And so we had reduced operations and programming, which leads to lessened expenses. If we look at just the general fund on its own, we can see that as far as revenues are concerned, our actual are just slightly more than what we had budgeted, but you do see this large difference again in expenses on what we had budgeted versus where we actually are. So again, where that gets us then is additional surplus when we compare our actual numbers at February 28th versus our budgeted numbers at February 28th. To the tune of about $145,000. Again, a chunk of this expenses is payroll, which we'll look at a little bit more closely in a couple more slides. We have the recreation fund. This, we see a little bit larger discrepancy in our revenue, actual versus budget year to date. And again, that is because of the mitigations in January. We had less programming and operations and such going on, but the even greater savings came in expenses when we compared to what we had budgeted and where they actually came in. Again, large chunk in payroll. And then of course, with reduced programming, there are other reduced expenses that go along with it. And so the net effect of that, when we look at our actual figures at February 28th versus where we had budgeted, we have additional surplus of $188,000. If we look at the special rec fund, we're really right where we budgeted to be at the end of February 28th, which you can see in the $2,500 number, but you can also see on the charts, we're right where we want to be. That would be the same with debt service. We're really right where we want to be, with a very minimal difference between budget and actual. When we get to the capital fund, we have a little bit of a difference here. We had the same difference last month as far as what we had budgeted for revenue versus where we are. Again, this $200,000 of the $205,000 is the OSLAD grant, and that will sit in deferred revenue until we have expenses to go against the grant, and then that will come out of deferred revenue and actually go into revenue. So this number will start accumulating over time as we start doing more work over at the reserve that goes against that grant. And as far as the difference in our expenses, we are a little bit behind on our spending on capital, and that is largely due to the Sunset Woods Playground, the master plan project, is we had budgeted to have already spent the money on detailed playground design, but we really didn't get into that contract until March. And so we'll start seeing greater expenses when we look at the March financials in April. Okay, now we're going to take a look at payroll, and we have two payroll charts now. So this first payroll chart we've seen before. This is a cumulative monthly payroll, actual versus budget. We have our budgeted line in green of just over $1 million as of February 28th versus our actual of $982,000. So we are looking at an actual versus budget surplus so far at February 28th of about $92,000. Now, if we look at this next chart that was requested from the Finance Committee, we have non-cumulative monthly payroll actual versus budget. And so on this chart now, we're looking at just each month sort of singularly, but plotted along the line. And you can really look at it down below. We show our 2 January payrolls and then what the actual amount ended up being versus what the budget had been. And you see that difference here. And then for February, you see the 2 payrolls, the actual payrolls, what they amounted to versus what the budget had been. And then you see that difference here. So for just February alone, we were under budget by about $25,000 in payroll. And that previous slide that showed cumulative year to date, we're under budget in payroll at over $90,000. And so in conclusion, we recall that in January of 2021, Park District programs and facilities were either partially closed or canceled due to COVID mitigation efforts. Fortunately, the Park District was able to significantly adjust expenses, especially payroll, as we just saw, resulting in $322,869 above budgeted net revenue. Additionally, vaccines are rapidly increasing, and we are seeing significant increases in both spring and summer registrations. Furthermore, we continue to receive unbudgeted financial support. And this is going to bring us back to the cash flow statement that we looked at the beginning of this presentation. So since we had put that together, PDERMA had recently provided $72,000 in insurance rebates, which we went ahead and dropped that into March on the cash flows on the first slide. Our tax extension in the operating funds is $76,000 more than budgeted. And so as we discussed on that first slide, we also dropped that money in our future cash flows. The passing of the American Rescue Plan by the federal government will provide relief for 75% of unemployment costs. And we took that into effect as well, that savings. And that is also reflected in our cash flows. Plus we have COVID-related relief, the potential for COVID-related relief funds. And that is all in addition to the current eligibility for FEMA funding, for which we have nothing reflected in our cash flows thus far, as we're still working to make that claim. So all of this places the Park District in a very favorable financial position as of February 28th, 2021. Do we have any questions?
Oh, I'm sure that we all have questions. Why don't we start with Terry?
I did want to ask about the PDERMA refund. Can you just tell me a little bit more about that?
Okay, so what happened is, as you may have heard, this is happening really around the country, but people really weren't going to the doctor in 2020. It was, most things were done over the phone, or people postponed surgeries or unnecessary visits. And so what PDERMA has done is gone back and issued rebates to entities such as the Park District of Highland Park, because we had such little expenses with our medical, dental, vision insurance last year. And so that is the rebate amount that they gave us.
So that's pretty unprecedented.
It is. I don't expect that to happen again. It should be a one-time deal probably, unless people are still afraid to go to the doctor or have unnecessary procedures done this year. But yeah, that $72,000 was completely unexpected and unbudgeted for.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Lori?
Yeah, this is fantastic. You mentioned, Mary Lynn, other potential pandemic relief.
Yes.
What would that include?
So when we say other potential pandemic relief, one of the things in the American Rescue Plan, so what will happen with the American Rescue Plan is the money will be given to Lake County, just like the CARES Act money was previously. It goes to Lake County, and then initially with the CARES Act money, and just like this time with the American Rescue Plan, park districts were not included in those dollars. We have already been in contact with our lead liaison, which was the Waukegan Park District, and we have written some letters asking to please not forget about the park districts. We feel that we are providing obviously vital relief for people that are being affected by the pandemic. And so the American Rescue Plan provides for reimbursement for revenue loss. So the plan would be to hopefully be allotted the park districts would be allotted some sort of money for revenue loss in Lake County. And then we would have to put together a claim for our portion of the money, which is what we did for the CARES Act. So at this point, I have no idea what kind of dollar amount, or even if Lake County will include the park districts this time. But all the words I have, and I actually sent a voicemail to Brian, it sounds like things are moving in a positive direction. So we are hopeful that we would get some money from that. Additionally, if you recall, unemployment costs last year were picked up by the feds. And so now they're telling us that they will provide relief for 75% of our unemployment costs. And so while it's not 100%, we budgeted to have to pay 100% of our unemployment costs. So there would be savings there for the district for the year of unemployment. And then that we've come up with a minimal estimate and put that in our cash flows as well. Knowing that's actually a past sort of a thing that we will get relief there. And anything else that comes out of the American Rescue Plan that I'm actually not aware of yet, but those are kind of the two key things that came out of that. And then additionally, we have been tracking costs related to the COVID that we are preparing to file for reimbursement from FEMA. We don't have a dollar amount for that just yet. We're working on that, and we're working to get that to the auditors on Thursday. Believe it or not, the available things for reimbursement keep sort of changing. So we were advised by IEMA down in Springfield to not file yet, as the Biden administration is, I would say, finessing what can or cannot be reimbursed from FEMA. So that's another amount, and we do not have that in our budget as well. So again, anything we get from there would be extra revenue as well. So those are some things that we're talking about that we haven't received, nor did we budget for them.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Brian Kaplan?
Yes, I don't have any questions, but Mary Lynn and Brian Romes, I want to congratulate you and your staff for coming under budget. It seems every quarter, for every report. So you guys must be doing something wrong. And
Thank
it's
you.
just a great job.
Thanks.
Well, I have no questions either. I think that Lori, the question about the possible other reimbursements was good to know and get that information. But I also want to compliment our staff for the efforts they've made to make us financially stronger during this arduous period. So we thank you.
Thank you.
And on that, we can go to unfinished business, which is the beach management plan. Manager Schwartz and Manager Grill to present.
You guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, I'm gonna try to share my screen here. Hang on 1 second. All right, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
All right, and I lost my option to go on video, so then I'm just gonna keep going with this because I can't figure it out.
It's not in presentation mode if you want it in there, but we could see your all your other pages.
Okay. Is it in presentation mode now?
No.
Sorry, guys, I am at a new setup in the office and I have 3 screens, and so I don't know how to get it onto presentation mode.
I guess we'll have to do it the old fashioned way then. Just tell us.
You can do it in the mode you were in. Just
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm
No,
sorry.
don't worry about it.
Okay,
Don't
All
keep
right.
ahead.
unless Rebecca, you can figure it out. I don't
You may
know.
just want to, yeah.
My
minimize
only
it.
thought was hit slideshow.
I did, but it goes to a different monitor, and so I don't know how to get it onto the monitor. I don't know how to direct
okay.
that.
Go
Anyways,
ahead.
okay. So tonight, I'm here tonight with the rest of the beach management team. And we're going to provide an update on the beach management plan initiative, and we're going to share the implementation strategy approach. So since the presentation by Smith Group on March 9th, the district posted the presentation on the website for the community to learn more about the initiative, and they also had the opportunity to comment and ask questions. We're going to build off of that presentation that you heard on March 9th, which you heard an overview of the analysis and the recommendations by Smith Group. And so we're going to put all of those findings into the context of the Park District's operations. We're going to share our implementation strategy approach, and we're going to touch on next steps. Tonight, we're not looking for approval of the plan. We expect to return to the Park Board in April to adopt the plan. So the district applied for this grant, the Illinois Coastal Management Program grant, to confirm existing strategies and find new strategies to manage lakefront properties in the face of climate change. With this plan, which is a systematic and vetted management plan, we can be consistent and deliberate in our management approach, as well as have the support of the plan when we're budgeting and seeking outside funds. This plan is a management document. So we covered this in the last presentation, but so all the 4 points on the left of the slide cover the purpose of the plan. It's guidance for responses to significant storm events, routine maintenance, preservation of access, and looking at permitting. This plan accepts the status quo of each of our properties. So that means that it's not providing any sort of recommendations on amenities or activities. So it's accepting that Rosewood is the district's swimming beach. It's not necessarily evaluating whether swimming should be reconsidered at Rosewood or should be considered at any other beach. So that's what we mean by we're not providing recommendations on lakefront activities or amenities. I'm going to turn it to Rebecca.
Yeah, thank you, Amalia. So this plan is a good thing. It's taking a holistic look at our lakefront and trying to do what you might borrow the language of climate plan adaptation planning. It's an assessment for adaptation planning, and it's going to help us face the new challenges that we're seeing. So in the language of adaptation planning, you identify your assets. So what buildings do we have? What's the public access? What are the roadways? And also, what are the natural resources that are part of these communities? We identified the stressors. Smith Group helped us look at wave runoff and high lake levels, but also what impact intense storms are having and on groundwater flows into these systems. It helps us to identify vulnerabilities. Where exactly is wave runoff coming into contact with the bluffs? What is the nature of the bluffs? Where are they vulnerable to wave action, but also, as I mentioned, groundwater flows coming in and making them more fragile than they are. And then the plan also helped us to start to identify strategies and priorities. And as Amalia said, we're going to be taking a look at that assessment and bringing it back to you. You'll be seeing it in terms of operations budgets and capital planning, and as staff assesses what actions we're going to take next. This is really part of our established plans and our activities, and is falling very much in with our restoration plans as well as our land management plans. Could I have the next slide, Amalia? Oops, that is not the next slide. So, wanted to touch a little bit on the lake bluffs and just to describe them a little bit and to reassure and remind us all that we are dealing as stewards of very dynamic systems. I know we've talked about that a lot on the sand and the shoreline, but perhaps even more so when we start looking at our lake bluffs, they are literally categorized in the books as eroding clay bluffs. So we are stewards of a rare community that really depends on this disturbance. In this case, it can be superficial sliding slumps, as you see in this picture, all the way to unfortunate, more dramatic failures of bluff. So we are looking always at how we manage those things. I have Smokey the Bear up in the corner there, just to remind us all of the nature of disturbance in nature. We've learned over time that we can't always suppress every fire. Some communities need fire to exist. And in some ways, these lake bluff communities also need this erosion in order to promote this ecosystem of rare plants and interesting geology that we're stewards of. So this takes a bit of finesse. We have to balance public safety, we have to balance access to these areas, but also to protect this dynamic system. So as in any natural resource management, we do this triangle of monitoring what's happening here, what's our baseline, what is changing, can we adapt that? Can we make this system healthier so that it itself can sustain change? Whether that be from intense storms or whatever is happening in the situation, or do we have to mitigate, build our way out in order to protect those systems? So we don't want to go into our strategizing and our implementation with the idea that we will always need to intervene. We first want to see what's happening and see as much as possible with safety in mind that we can roll along with nature's processes. Next slide, please, Amalia. Another word on the bluffs, there's been a bit of discussion about the tree canopy cover. On the left, I guess it would be left, yes? Yes, thank you, Amalia. That is actually a picture from the early 1900s of the lake bluff around Millard Park. On the right, you see a picture taken maybe 5-6 years ago. So it's an interesting chicken and egg story here. We're reminded, and it's always been part of our lakefront management, that we need to reduce the canopy, the tree cover that prevents the ground from getting enough sun for plants that can really hold soil to grow. But we also have to remember that part of the reason on the left you don't see trees is because of the disturbance. So you see this interesting interaction between how the bluffs act and how they end up appearing. So I just wanted to bring that up and let you know that that's part of our ongoing plans. We have been doing restoration on the bluffs probably since 2004, so it'll continue to be part of that plan. Thanks, Emily. Next one. So as a way to start thinking through the recommendations that were made in the Smith plan, we again borrowed back from our adaptation training and just put together this impact grid, which really tells you where you can start, where are the easy things that in our case we're actually mostly doing already, such as beach grooming and annual inspections and monitoring the bluff. So those things down in that lower left-hand corner we're doing now. They're easy to get going. They'll have some impact, but Implementing next moves us up higher to things like that monitoring that I was talking about. So really in that upper left-hand corner is our monitoring section. We're checking the stability of the slope. I should have mentioned this happens to be an example of the recommendations from Millard Park, sticking there. Budgeting for repairs as they need to be made, and obviously considering public safety. Implementing as time and money allows. Those are the things that we do to adapt and make the community healthy. Do we need to move things away from the edge? Can we do native plantings? Can we clear trees and help it be a healthier system? And then finally, down in the right-hand corner are things that are going to take some effort. They might take partnerships. They might take more money. But there'll be things that we'll be investigating further, and they might come into that category of mitigation. Again, building your way out. Do we need to look at some shoreline protection for the toe, or do something creative to try to control the groundwater building up behind the clay bluff? And as we come to the end, I'd be happy to explain more about how that actually works. But I will turn back over to Malia.
All right, thanks, Rebecca. So Rebecca put the plan into the context of the Park District's operations and our ongoing initiatives. I want to bring it back to the beach management plan. So this slide shows the two major steps to this initiative. There's the beach management plan and there's the implementation strategy. So Smith Group completed the assessment. They provided recommendations. Now the Park District team is taking that document and developing an implementation strategy using the tools like the impact effort graph that Rebecca just reviewed. So this implementation strategy is going to outline our timeline, budget impact for each of the recommendations provided by Smith Group. And with that, staff can begin to budget and to seek outside funds. So this slide shows an example of the implementation strategy. The implementation strategy is going to end up in our annual work plan, in our operational budget, and the capital budget. This is where the strategy is going to come into fruition. So if there are any questions about this slide, I'll have it up here, and then I'll entertain questions at the end. But I do also want to mention that we will likely engage with board liaisons through this process to ensure transparency and board collaboration prior to inclusion in our annual work plan and operation and capital budgets. And with that, I will open it up for questions.
Thank you very much. Let's do it in backwards order. So Brian Kaplan.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. I just have one quick question. I know the slide you used was Millard Park, but I assume we're going to do this at all of our beachfront properties.
That's right.
And how is this going to fit in with what Lakota Group is trying to do or is doing down at Park Avenue?
So what Lakota's doing is a site plan, and they're doing what this plan didn't do. So they're looking at amenities, they're looking activities, they're looking about how the site flows. This is really focused on management of the property, our maintenance operations, guidance for, like, I'm going to go back to that first slide. So guidance after large storm events, giving us some guidance and strategies for permitting. So it's more of that management side of it. Does that, I don't know, Rebecca, if you have anything else to add there about how, or Brian.
No, the only other comment that I'll add to that is that Lakota Group does have this plan, so they're aware of it, and it's a consideration. in the effort to develop the site master plan. So it's certainly not on deaf ears with them, but I think Amalia hit it on the head very clearly. They're addressing amenities. This addresses more infrastructure.
Well, it's
And what
fair,
is the-
I'm sorry, isn't it fair to say that the two will go hand in glove? Because you put in an amenity and then you have to manage the site.
Right. So the part, like what Brian said, the Park Avenue site plan, the scope of it and Lakota's direction is to build on efforts that the district has already completed, one of which is this beach management plan. So they've seen the draft, they've seen this updated draft. So they're using this as to build off of, to develop the larger site plan that encompasses all the efforts that we've done at Park Avenue.
Okay, and what type of time frame are you looking at implementing these plans?
The beach management plan.
Yes, ma'am.
So we will start developing this implementation strategy, and it will inform the 2022 capital and operation budgeting, as well as the annual work plan.
Yeah, but also,
Sorry.
Oh, and ongoing efforts.
yeah, I mean, it's really ongoing. But Rebecca, did you want to? I don't know who was going to speak.
I was only going to add that we have started investigating some of the analysis that that it was recommended that we do.
Sure. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you. That's all I have.
Terry?
Yeah, Brian asked the question I was going to ask because we had that meeting with down at the Park Avenue Beach, and I was just wondering that basically the two questions were, are these people working together, and how does that affect that? I'll just say that doing a walkthrough of the bluffs and hearing them talk about it really raised alarm bells with me. People were trying to calm me down, but it's just very nerve-wracking. My questions really are to Rebecca. If I can just go back to your analysis again, you talked about disturbances. So you're saying that really the health of the bluff relies on it burning or falling into the lake,
The community that is the bluff itself depends upon it. So it's a tight system of the trees and the plants, the shrubs, the shoreline. In fact, even the beach depends on the bluff failing in some ways, because that is how the sediment moves off of the land and into the beach and into the lake. So that is what I mean by the health of the bluff, because I am talking about that entire ecosystem.
Okay, so when I see a large tree or whatever falling down the bluff or into the lake, I shouldn't have a heart attack about that. Honestly, because I was literally questioning everything, like, why do we have an ice skating rink if our bluffs are falling into the lake, like, sort of thing. So, this is new to me still. Every day something new happens.
Yes, it certainly goes back to that question of vulnerability and assets. So we've been doing the right thing of looking at Rosewood, where we have important assets and public access, and an area that we do not maintain as more of a nature preserve kind of an area as we do Millard. So it becomes that question. Is it safe? Are there significant resources at risk here? Can we allow some of this nature to happen? You mentioned trees. A tree could fall at Heller in the middle of the woods and be of no concern. However, a tree could be sitting right next to the driveway and being ready to fall and would be a hazard. So a little bit of that kind of thinking comes into play with this. I think that some of the areas that Millard that are currently experiencing damage from wave action, have experienced it before. And so it's up to us to find out what is the trajectory and determine what we need to do to make it safe for people while trying to apply that finesse I was talking about, where maybe that tree falling is okay.
Okay, because I mean, like in traveling through Yellowstone and other things like that, you see they have these dramatic fires that wipe out entire century-old forests. Yet there are leaves or there are growths on the tree that actually don't open up until the fire hits them, and
Yeah.
then they explode, opening up more seedlings. So I can understand that. Okay. So you're saying that when something is exposed in a negative way, it may actually lead to something positive on the back end of it.
That's right, Terry. That's a great analogy. In fact, I was looking at some studies that show that some of these plant communities, they do, in a sense, heal the bluff by moving back in. This study was looking at Michigan on the bluffs there, and I believe it indicated that 5 to 10 years the vegetation is moving back in. What was cool at Millard, and we've lost some of it, was that there are species that can only survive in these kinds of environments, and that is what makes a plant rare. That is the rare thing about plants. It's usually because they've lost their habitat. So this is a very rare habitat. It's disturbance based. And so that is the thing that you might, you're getting in the way of when you don't let some of this happen.
Okay. All right. So I should be a little less concerned than I am. And maybe, because I talked to other people about it and they're particularly concerned about Millard. I don't know if, sometimes we walk through a path and you say, like, what is happening here? Or don't mind our construction or whatever like that. So maybe down the line, when people see these alarming things and they're tut-tut-tutting and worrying the way I do, maybe there's some education that can go on that says, this is happening, like that picture that you sent from 100 years ago, whatever. I just think it would be interesting to show that and to make people a little bit less alarmed by what's happening.
I agree. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Terry. Good questions. I think there's something that will come out of that, just like the demonstrations that we see at Heller. Lori?
I don't have any questions. Very educational, though. Learned
Okay.
a lot.
Good. Well, thank you. We're not taking action on this. There will be a beach management proposal that we're going to approve. I think you said in one of the April meetings.
Yeah, we will bring back the beach management plan that we talked about. We'll want to adopt that plan. Purpose tonight was to just explain the difference between the plan and then our next steps, which would be the implementation strategy and so on from there. So we will be back to adopt that plan next month.
Great.
And I know Cal Bernstein did also just join the meeting. Wanted to note that.
Good. Well, Rebecca and Amalia, thank you very much for that presentation.
Very welcome.
So let's move to new business. First, we'll start out with Parks Foundation update. Terry?
Hello. Okay. Again, I closed the portion of, whoa, sorry, my computer just went a little haywire here. I closed my speaking part at the meeting. I don't speak a lot, and that's actually a really good thing. The competence coming from the board is sky high right now. They have smart, able people running this thing, and it is just cruising. And I see real growth there. That's just professionalism, and I let them know just how amazing this board is rounding out to be. We can use more people, and we can use a let's just say we can use a ton more money. Because I think that these people have great plans. I don't know, Brian, do you have the same sort of feeling?
Yeah, the board members that we have right now are really hitting their stride, and I know Liz Gagola and Marilyn Peters have also been providing great support and helping them with some strategic initiatives, and obviously Terry, his support was a liaison, and operationally speaking, they're right on stride, and there's a lot of good things in the hopper.
Right. So just to give you a couple specifics about that, Bob Bernstein, the president, came up with this kind of initiative about Kids Helping Kids Student Board. So that we are in the process of contacting 6 to 8 high school students that have applied to be on the first student board. So this is going to be a little bit different. We've always had like a student liaison, the way some of the commissions that I'm on have. This would actually be planted inside the high school itself for them to be doing park foundation type of work, but in their own little ecosystem in the high school with our support. We've given them a goal to raise $3,000 this spring to fund camp tuitions for local families in need. So we're in the process of setting up Zoom meetings with the kids and things like that to create this board inside the high school. It's a really great initiative. We have people on the board who have connections with larger organizations such as Insperity and Allstate, and they're looking for ways to get grants from those larger corporations into the hands of the park district. They have also started an internship opportunity for college students to come in and literally learn the ins and outs of fundraising. And I know I have several friends whose kids are in sort of the fundraising industry, and we have some incredible candidates who are seeking a spot on our team as interns, and because we are so small, they will get a hands-on experience unlike they would get with a much larger organization. And finally, we're just looking for a tagline for our donor base. We're looking for some sort of really hard connecting emotional sort of appeal, powerful emotional trigger that distinguishes the Parks Foundation from the Park District. You know, the Park District does its thing, but the Park Foundation, sometimes our meaning is lost. Like, well, why do we need a foundation if we have a Park District? Don't our taxes pay for this, et cetera? So we're doing some mind exploration and things like that to try to come up with a really great emotional tugging tagline to get more people interested in joining or supporting the Park District. That's really it.
And Terry, that was great. I just want to add one hot off the press update to that. I believe we have 12 students confirmed now. Liz can probably even give a better update, but I think it's 12 we have confirmed on that junior board, which is fantastic. And then Jessica Reyes, manager of the Helen Nature Center, is going to be the liaison for that junior board, working with the foundation. So we're really excited. I know the foundation's really excited about that.
Well, that's great. That's great. Thank you, Terry. Good report. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Deer Creek Racket Club update. Manager Zulo.
Hello. Let me see. Share.
Dan, you might need to give Robin shared access, although she probably should have it.
I do have it. It was just asking.
There we
Can
go.
everybody see that now?
Yep, we can see your slides.
Okay, perfect. Excellent. Okay, so Deer Creek Racket Club, what has been going on the last year? So after the lockdown last year, tennis really boomed, primarily because of the natural social distancing aspect of the sport and the ability to play outside for free. People were looking for things to do. And as we are transitioning, hopefully out of the pandemic, we are looking to understand our customers' behaviors to keep all of those customers playing tennis and in our program and in our facility. Programming is huge for tennis at Deer Creek, and adult classes have really taken more of a hit than junior classes, primarily from adults being a little weary of COVID and less free time from hybrid and virtual learning. We are on track, actually exceeding our budget, as you can see in the green table. We are exceeding budget for both juniors and adults. For our junior program, it has not suffered as much. And last fall 2020, we did create 2 new class levels, an orange ball 1 and a green dot 1, which are beginner levels for 8 to 10 and 11 to 14, something that we had thought lacked in our program, and they have been successful so far. The blue chart also shows the indoor numbers for the last 2 indoor seasons, so for adult and junior programming. Private lessons are really a hot trend right now, from being people who want to do the one-on-one training are a little more comfortable, or they can take a lesson with a family or a friend. We have also had some mitigations throughout the last year that only allowed for private lessons. So as you can see, in December 2019, we only had 155 hours of privates, whereas this past December, we had 481. So the pros were able to create some hours for themselves and some revenue for the district. Permanent court time has, in recent years, has slowly declined, primarily due to an aging population and not wanting to commit to the full year. But COVID really hit permanent court time pretty hard, but we have been able to use those courts for private lessons and classes. So we are taking that opportunity, and a lot of customers have actually reached out recently to ask about next year and hope they're planning to come back. So hopefully we can increase those numbers again. For tennis camp has always been a full day tennis camp with a daily field trip. So we would take them to Rosewood or Hidden Creek or bowling and break up the day from the heat and playing. Last year, with the COVID restrictions, we kind of scrambled and came up with a half-day option. So a 9 to noon and a 1 to 4, which was just 3 hours of tennis. And it was really a huge success. We were maxed out every week. So it really was something that was successful. So this year we are planning for phase 4 guidelines as well and doing that same half-day options. In 2021, the numbers are a little low. Tennis primarily has a later registration, so we are hoping those numbers will increase. Pickleball. So for pickleball, we are currently offering a drop-in drill on Wednesday afternoons, and we actually started a new league that started today. So we are hoping to even grow that more and possibly add a day. Other pickleball players are renting courts, and we have had some private lessons. We do have a national pickleball tournament rental for the Canopy pickleball courts and the tennis courts, actually, because of how big it is, for just before Labor Day weekend and leading into Labor Day weekend. Some opportunities we see are we had previously had a drop-in open play, and we hope as COVID mitigations lift, we are able to offer that again. Some recent facility upgrades, we had the ceiling painted on the court level, and this past summer we had a new roof. You can see the before, during, and after photos. We also had the HVAC replacement on the tennis court level. This upcoming year, we are planning a budgeted court resurfacing so we can have, the courts had received some damage previously, and we are hoping to get that done in time for brand new indoor season. Any questions?
Let's start with Terry. Terry?
Yes, hi. Sorry, I got a text in the middle of it, sort of business stuff, but yeah, no, I've enjoyed using the facility much more often in the last 6 months when we've been up and running. And being an avid player who also plays a lot at Midtown, it's very interesting to see some of the comparison contrasts there. You know, I just love that it's humming and it's going. I was just wondering if there were any plan ever to have water containers down on the court themselves. Is that a thought? Do we ever do that?
We actually had done that previously. We had taken it out, I want to say 1.5 or 2 years ago now, because it kept leaking and there would be damage on the court level. But there was a previous time, right when probably right after you walk into like court 4, it was right there on the court level.
Okay, I thought that you had to kind of go mid-court to get drinks, but okay, that's great. And then, do they know, are they going to restart up towel service there?
I am not aware with the COVID mitigations.
I mean,
It's something that we have to readdress as we get through. So we stopped doing that at both the rec center and at Deer Creek, just to the soils on the towels and having staff have to clean those and wash those. So at this time, we haven't reintroduced those to our facilities at this point. We're kind of still following the guidelines to not include those for now.
Okay, great job, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Lori?
Oh, thank you for that update. Yeah, we have tennis users, so it was very nice to be able to stay active. You know, while we were outside and even indoors, it was always very well supervised, and a lot of caution where parents were not allowed to go inside and watch the lessons. And I think all these measures were taken, making it possible to continue this without, you know, having, you know, any kinds of COVID breakouts or anything like that. So I just think the staff did a wonderful job in keeping the kids safe and just really having strict rules on who could be in the facility and who couldn't.
Thank you.
All right, Brian Kaplan.
Yes, Robin, that was a great report. I don't have any questions. Excuse me, I apologize. I just have a comment. As a newer user of Deer Creek, I want to say that I think it's very well run. The staff brings back that wow factor that we discussed years ago, and it's a pleasure to go there.
Thank you.
And thank you.
I just wanted to ask a 3 little questions. Are there any junior tournaments that are scheduled for this year at Deer Creek?
We are actually we are hoping to get one on the schedule for the end of April, beginning of May. That as one of our pros, Richard, has been in contact with the USTA. We actually have a meeting tomorrow about trying to set that up.
Okay, good. I mean, that's good promotion for the club. And the pickleball tournament that we're going to have, I say we'll host it, but it's our facility. Approximately how many people are coming to that tournament?
The draw can be up to 500, which I believe they said about 125 people each day.
That's a wonderful opportunity for us there. And what I'd like to suggest that we really promote Deer Creek as a tournament venue. If we get that tournament, let the community know that we're going to be hosting a huge pickleball tournament. I mean, let's jump all over that for our promoting ourselves. But also, let's not forget that we're going to be doing solar installation at Deer Creek. And I think we really should talk that up so that the membership and the community knows that we're going to be taking that big step and trying to start moving more and more towards a green environment.
Yes.
That is, I don't have any other questions if there are none.
I think Cal's still here.
Cal, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot about Cal. Cal!
Been so quiet.
It's okay. I don't mind being forgotten about. I would just wanted to say that, again, someone who's just started playing tennis after a 30-year break. I wanted to actually salute the patrons of Deer Creek, because it's not easy playing tennis in a mask. And I would say that my observation is at least 95% of the people are wearing masks there. And I really appreciate that, because it's hard for us as a park district to police that, because we have a person at the front desk, we don't have people watching the courts, but I appreciate our constituents, our patrons, for adhering to the rules and social distancing and wearing masks while they play.
Can I add on to that? I'm playing for a Deer Creek team now, a mixed doubles team, and we've had people on our court not wear their masks, and people from the front office have come down and yelled at them. So they're actually following the rule.
Good. Terry, aren't you responsible as an officer of the enterprise to enforce the rules?
I actually tried to do a citizen's arrest on them, but they did not acknowledge me.
Says something. Well, thank you. It was a good report. We appreciate that. And I guess we go to Brian for director's report.
Yes, thank you. And you can all hear me, correct?
What?
Okay, good. All right, now just a few updates that I want to provide to the park board and the community. As you all know, on March 18th, the governor released new details regarding the Restore Illinois plan, which included updates to the phase 4 guidelines, as well as updated metrics for future phases, including a bridge phase once 70% of those age 65 and older have received at least one vaccination. I believe as of today, the state is at 69.4%, so very close. And phase 5, once 50% of those 16 years and older receive at least one vaccination. And I checked today, we're at about 36%. So essentially, once we move to phase 5, there are no capacity limits, but we assume there will be some guidelines to still follow, which we have not received yet. But focusing on phase 4 updates and the bridge update, these plans do permit increased capacity limits for participation in Park District recreation programs and services. The Park District continues, of course, to comply with all the standards for programs and facilities, both indoors and outdoors. And we will keep the board and the community updated via our Parkline email, as well as on our website. With the increased capacities, and also the increased vaccine availability, as Mary Lynn had mentioned earlier, we are seeing a significant increase in our spring, summer, and even fall registration. So I just wanted to touch on those a little bit. Our spring registration currently has 2,888 registrations, which is 50% higher than it was in 2019 pre-COVID. And that accounts for 1,000 additional registrations compared to 2019, again, pre-COVID. The increases are namely due to, there's a 125% increase in our baseball registration. That accounts for 250 additional participants. A 53% increase in ice skating, which accounts for 153 participants. There's a 24% increase in tennis, which accounts for 141 participants. And then there's a 556% increase in nature programming, which accounts for 523 additional registrations, which means people are certainly enjoying nature. Summer camp registration also continues to be ongoing. We are still under some pretty stringent capacity limitations and strict guidelines due to COVID. So many of our camps are full and have a wait list. Currently, we have 633 participants registered for our summer camp. There are another 100 that are on the wait list. However, staff is working on the next few weeks here to accommodate those campers the best we can through some additional camp opportunities. And hopefully we'll get as many kids into our camps as we possibly can. To note, there are still openings in some of our camps, namely some of our sports camps, our tennis camps, which we just talked about, and those are 1 week options. So those are still available. Finally, I also want to mention our fall park school program. We take registration quite early for the fall park school program. And although it doesn't begin until September, we currently have 285 registrations, which is already 50 more than we had in 2019, again, pre-COVID. So programs are doing very well. People are excited to get back out into our programs and our services. And finally, I just want to give a quick update also on 4th of July activities. Unfortunately, you may have heard at the City Council meeting, with continued uncertainty surrounding what phase we will actually be in on July 4th and the significant planning that goes into the advanced preparation for those activities, the parade, Fourth Fest, the fireworks, all of those events that we coordinate with the City of Highland Park will be either canceled or rescheduled. Most of those will be rescheduled to Labor Day weekend. There has not been an official announcement on that yet, but something will come in the following weeks to confirm that. So this is kind of an unofficial announcement. It has not been solely confirmed that what will happen on Labor Day at this point. However, Fourth Fest will not take place this year, but the Park District, of course, will not disappoint. We are planning a variety of safe, smaller scaled events throughout the community. We're going to be very creative in doing what we can provide to the community. Of course, we're going to have our annual summer firecracker baseball tournament. We will have some virtual fireworks at Hidden Creek Aqua Park. We will have our virtual firecracker 5K race, and we'll do some drive-in movies. And there'll be a lot more that you will see again in the next few weeks when we announce those activities and more to come. So I was also going to mention the big pickleball tournament in Labor Day, but Robin covered that. So those are all of my announcements, and happy to entertain any questions from the board.
Does anybody have questions for Executive Director Romes?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
It's about camps. It's 6, I think you said 83 or 33.
Yes.
Is that our current capacity based upon COVID restrictions?
No, we have capacity for more, but what we're finding is that, our most popular camps, like Spotlighters, some of our Camp Sunshine, some of the crew camps are full. And actually our nature camps have the biggest wait list. I've already talked about nature once, but we are going to add another nature camp. So we have 2 right now, or 3 that are sold out, and we're going to add another one. And we are working to get people off the wait list into new camp opportunities. But there are still some slots available in, like I said, sports camps and maybe even a few in crew. It just depends if you're looking for a 7-week option or a 4-week option. We don't offer a 3-week option anymore at this point because we can't blend the groups, but that may change as we get into summer.
No other
Thank you.
questions? Great. No other questions?
I did have one, Brian. I'm sorry if I missed it, but did you say, are we holding our before and after camp?
No, Mitch, we are not, right? Or are we? Chris or Mitch, can you confirm that?
So this is Chris. Hi, everyone. We will be hosting after camp at each location. That is pending enrollment. We certainly have our minimums to meet for those. Unfortunately, as Brian said earlier, due to the mitigations and our cohort method of which we're following similar to the school districts, we can't have our traditional before or after camps at Westridge where we then bus our participants to their locations for their camp. So we certainly encourage participants who need that aftercare as part of their summer to enroll in that as soon as possible so we can ensure we meet our minimums to ensure their sites are being ran properly.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay. We'll now ask, I'm sorry, let me turn off that phone. If I can. Brian, has anyone from the public who's attending this meeting expressed their desire to address the board?
So once again, there are 3 attendees. If any of those attendees would like to make comments, you can raise your hand function. At this time, I don't see anybody using the raise. You can all, oh, okay. It looks like we have one comment. I am good. So it looks like we have no comments from the public. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. At this point, I'll ask for a motion to go into closed session pursuant to the following section of the Open Meetings Act, Section 2C1, the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline of the district, including legal counsel for the district. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roxanne, please call the roll.
Commissioner Bernstein,
Aye.
Commissioner Grossberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Flores Weiskopf,
Aye.
Vice President Kaplan,
Yes.
President Ruttenberg.
Yes, we have a unanimous consent to go into closed session, and so we'll adjourn this meeting